Imagine waking up each day feeling as though everything around you is slightly repeating itself. The same emotions, the same situations, the same inner battles wearing a different mask. You tell yourself you're changing, you're growing, but somehow life seems to loop back around, mirroring the same patterns you swore you'd broken free from. It's like walking through a corridor of mirrors, where every reflection looks a little different, yet they all trace back to the same energetic truth, your current vibration. Most people never realize that what they call life is actually an energetic echo, a repeating transmission of the frequency they emit from within. Every thought, every emotion, every subtle reaction sends out a signal, and the universe, like a loyal messenger, returns an identical reflection. The people we meet, the opportunities we attract, even the random frustrations that appear, they're not coincidences. They're responses. They're the echoes of our vibration, forming loops that replay until something deep within us changes. This isn't punishment, it's the design. The universe mirrors us perfectly so that we can see what we're broadcasting, what we're still believing in, and what we're ready to release. If you've ever wondered why you keep finding yourself in familiar emotional territory, the same heartbreak in a different face, the same anxiety in a new situation, the same limitations under a new name, it's because the vibration hasn't shifted yet. You're still tuned into the same energetic station playing the same song on repeat. But here's the truth that changes everything. Your vibration isn't fixed. It isn't destiny. It's a pattern, a frequency loop built from memory, belief, and emotion, and it can be rewritten. When you understand that, you begin to see life not as a series of external events, but as an energetic dance that begins inside you. What you hold emotionally is what you hold vibrationally. And what you hold vibrationally becomes the shape of your reality. Close your eyes for a moment and notice the tone of your inner world. Is it tense? Is it hopeful? Is it restless or peaceful? That feeling, subtle yet powerful, is your current vibration. It's the hum beneath every thought, every word, every interaction. You don't have to label it as good or bad. Simply noticing it is the first step to freedom, because awareness begins to dissolve the unconscious patterns that keep it alive. In this journey, you'll come to see that you are not trapped by your circumstances, but by your vibration, by the emotional frequency you've learned to embody over time. And that frequency, like a signal, keeps pulling in the same kinds of moments, people, and lessons. But the moment you see the loop, truly recognize it, something powerful begins to happen. A crack forms in the pattern. A new possibility enters. The path ahead isn't about fighting the loop or escaping it. It's about awakening to it, understanding it deeply, feeling its rhythm, and then gently shifting the energy that sustains it. This is the moment your old identity begins to tremble, and your new self starts whispering through the cracks. The loop doesn't end because the world changes, it ends because you do. You are not meant to live life on repeat. You are meant to expand, to evolve, to rise into alignment with a version of yourself that vibrates beyond the old frequencies of fear, doubt, and resistance. The loop was never your enemy, it was your teacher. And now it's time to graduate. Take a breath. Feel the stillness between your thoughts. That silence, that infinite space, is where the loop begins to dissolve. You're not broken. You're simply resonating with an old song that your soul has outgrown. In the stillness, a new melody waits. And the moment you decide to listen, you've already begun to break free. The moment you begin to understand that your life is not a series of random events but an energetic mirror, everything starts to look different. Every repeated struggle, every recurring disappointment, every familiar emotional cycle is part of what can be called the invisible loop. It's invisible not because it's hidden from you, but because it feels so natural that you mistake it for reality itself. You live inside it like a fish in water, unaware of the very field that surrounds and defines your experience. The loop is not outside you. It lives within, in your thoughts, your emotions, your subconscious beliefs, and the energetic frequency that holds them together. Most people are unaware of this because they focus only on the surface. The relationship that didn't work out, the job that keeps repeating the same frustrations, the feeling of not being enough. They try to change the outer picture, but the picture only reflects the projector. The real change has to happen in the energy that's creating it. Think of your vibration as a magnetic field. Every emotion you hold sends ripples into that field, shaping what returns to you. When you feel fear, it doesn't just stay in your mind, it becomes part of your frequency, subtly attracting moments that match that same energetic tone. When you feel abundant, open, or grateful, you begin broadcasting a completely different signal, and reality starts reorganizing itself around that new message. The loop is the automatic pattern of that broadcast, a self-reinforcing cycle that continues until something interrupts it. This is why people can read countless self-help books or repeat affirmations and still feel stuck. The surface changes, but the vibration, the underlying frequency, remains the same. The subconscious mind keeps sending out the old signal because it's comfortable there. It knows the pain, the doubt, the limitation. It feels safe inside familiarity even when that familiarity hurts. The loop thrives on this comfort, the illusion that repetition equals safety. It's almost poetic how the universe mirrors this energy so precisely. If you believe you're not worthy of love, you'll keep meeting people who confirm that belief. If you secretly expect failure, you'll find ways to prove yourself right. It's not cruelty, it's feedback. Life keeps showing you where your vibration still lingers, where the emotional frequency hasn't yet risen into alignment. It's an echo chamber of your own consciousness, lovingly designed to help you see yourself. Imagine the loop like a circle made of energy, spinning quietly beneath your awareness. Every time you react the same way, every time you believe the same story about who you are or what you deserve, you give that circle momentum. It spins faster, pulling you deeper into the pattern. The loop doesn't need your conscious consent, only your unconscious agreement. That's just how I am, things never work out for me, I've always been like this strengthens it. But the moment you begin to observe it, the loop starts to slow. Observation changes everything because it shifts you from being in the loop to seeing the loop. Awareness is the first crack in the pattern. When you start noticing your own emotional triggers, the way you tense up when someone criticizes you, or how you shrink when you feel unseen, you're no longer unconsciously living the vibration. You're witnessing it. And what you witness begins to lose its hold. The loop also exists in time, or rather, in how we perceive time. When you vibrate at a certain frequency, life keeps replaying similar scenes until the lesson encoded in that vibration is fully learned. It might look like stagnation, but it's actually energetic education. The universe is trying to teach you, not punish you. The repetition is there to make you conscious of your own creation. Once you grasp that, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this showing me about my vibration?" Every emotion has a tone, and that tone carries data, memories, expectations, beliefs. When you feel shame, your energy contracts. When you feel gratitude, your energy expands. Expansion invites new experiences because it allows the universe to flow through you differently. Contraction keeps you cycling through the same tight emotional patterns. The invisible loop feeds on contraction. The subtle ways you close your heart, limit your imagination, and stay tethered to what's familiar. One of the greatest illusions of the loop is the feeling of movement without progress. You might change jobs, relationships, or cities, yet find yourself facing the same inner story. The scenery changes, but the emotional climate stays the same. That's the loop pretending to evolve. It's the mind convincing you that change is happening externally while the vibration remains untouched internally. Real transformation begins when you start looking inward, not at the circumstances but at the energy behind them. You can't break a pattern by resisting it. Resistance only feeds the vibration of what you're fighting. The loop dissolves when you bring light to it, awareness, compassion, neutrality. When you start responding differently to old triggers, even in the smallest ways, the energy recalibrates. The loop is starved not by force but by lack of participation. Every time you choose not to react from old emotions, every time you choose to pause and breathe instead of repeat, you're changing the frequency. There's a quiet power in realizing that nothing outside you has ever been holding you back. Only the vibration you've been unconsciously nurturing. And that realization isn't meant to shame you, it's meant to free you. Because if the loop is generated from within, then freedom too is generated from within. You are both the creator and the liberator of your vibration. This awareness marks the beginning of awakening, the point where you stop blaming circumstances and start tuning into energy. The invisible loop was never meant to imprison you, it was meant to mirror your energetic truth so clearly that one day, you'd finally notice the reflection and say, "Enough. I see it now." That's the moment the loop begins to unravel. The invisible loop is not your enemy. It's your mirror, your teacher, and your invitation. It repeats not to punish, but to awaken. And once you start to see its patterns in your emotions, your relationships, and your reactions, you're no longer trapped by it, you're standing at the threshold of transformation. Because awareness is not the end of the loop. It's the first ripple of freedom. There comes a point in every seeker's journey where something inside begins to whisper, "There has to be more than this." You've seen the repetition, you've felt the familiar pull of old emotions, and though you may not yet know how to change it, you can feel that something within you is ready to shift. That quiet knowing, that flicker of awareness, is the beginning of what can be called the shift point. It's not loud or dramatic. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, like the moment before dawn when the darkness is still, but you can feel that the light is coming. The shift point is where consciousness awakens inside the loop. You begin to notice that you are not your thoughts, not your reactions, not the vibration you've been unconsciously carrying. You start to see yourself, not the persona you've built to survive, but the awareness that's been watching all along. And the moment you see it, the loop loses a part of its power. The illusion of being trapped begins to dissolve. Energy doesn't change through struggle. It changes through presence. The vibration that's been running your life is sustained by unconscious momentum. Old stories, old emotions, old frequencies that have been repeating themselves through habit. The only way to stop the loop is to bring it into the light of your awareness, to observe it without judgment, to witness the pattern rather than participate in it. When you do that, energy starts to move differently. What once felt dense begins to loosen. In the quantum field of consciousness, observation collapses potential into form. When you observe something with full awareness, you change it. This is true both in physics and in the spiritual realm. The act of watching your own thoughts and emotions, really watching them without running from them or judging them, begins to recode the energy that created them. Presence transforms vibration. It doesn't need force, it needs attention infused with acceptance. At the shift point, you realize that every emotion you've ever felt is not an enemy but a messenger. Fear shows you where your energy is contracted. Anger reveals where boundaries were crossed or where you've abandoned your truth. Sadness points to something you've been holding onto for too long. Instead of running from these emotions, you start to feel them consciously, not to feed them but to free them. Each feeling, when met with compassion, loses its density. The vibration begins to rise naturally, like mist dissolving into air. You can think of it like tuning an instrument. For years, your vibration may have been playing the same notes, slightly off-key, filled with tension and noise. But when you pause, breathe and listen, really listen, you start to retune yourself. Each conscious breath becomes a recalibration. Each moment of awareness softens the static. Slowly, you begin to harmonize with a higher, clearer frequency. The universe responds not to your words but to your resonance. You can say 1,000 affirmations, but if your inner vibration is still aligned with fear or lack, those words won't shift the frequency. The energy you are is always stronger than the words you speak. That's why the shift point is internal. It's not about what you do but who you become while you do it. When your inner energy begins to vibrate differently, reality must mirror that change. The loop cannot sustain itself in a new vibration. It has nothing to anchor into. Awakening to this truth is both liberating and humbling. You realize that you've been creating your experiences all along, not consciously but vibrationally. Every reaction, every fear, every desire has been shaping your energetic signature. And that signature has been broadcasting your reality. When you finally see this, you stop trying to control life through the mind and begin to shift it through alignment. But awareness alone is not enough. Once you see the loop, you must learn how to hold yourself through the discomfort that follows. Because when energy begins to change, the old vibration resists. The subconscious mind clings to what it knows, even if what it knows is painful. It will tempt you to fall back into familiar emotions, to replay the same stories, to reattach to the old self. This is the moment of truth, the point where your consciousness is tested not by the universe but by your own habits. The key here is neutrality. When the old vibration arises, the fear, the doubt, the anxiety, don't fight it. Don't feed it either. Simply breathe. Observe it. Let it move through you without attaching a story. Neutrality is not indifference, it's power. It's the ability to stay still while energy reorganizes itself within you. The moment you stop resisting what arises, you stop recycling it. And in that stillness, a new energy has room to enter. This is the alchemy of transformation. Noticing the vibration that's playing out. Accepting it without judgment. Detaching from the identity built around it. Recoding it through conscious presence. Each step softens the energetic loop a little more. Each breath of awareness weakens the frequency that once felt like fate. Over time, this process becomes second nature. You begin to sense energy before it solidifies into experience. You catch the vibration at the level of feeling, long before it manifests into form. That's what true mastery is, not controlling the outer world but harmonizing the inner one. At the shift point, life itself begins to feel different. You move slower but deeper. You speak less but with more intention. You start to notice synchronicities, subtle signs that reality is rearranging itself around your new frequency. People respond differently to you, opportunities flow with more ease, and your inner world feels lighter. You realize that you were never stuck, you were simply resonating with a lower octave of yourself. This moment, This awakening is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the loop began. Beneath all the conditioning, beneath the emotional noise, there is a pure vibration of presence, peace, and infinite possibility. That vibration is your true self, the consciousness observing all things. The shift point is the bridge back to that remembrance. The beauty of this process is that it doesn't demand perfection. You don't have to eliminate all fear or sadness. You simply have to stay awake within them. Each time you choose awareness over reaction, you choose alignment. Each time you breathe instead of spiral, you rewrite your energetic script. And as your vibration rises, the outer world starts reflecting a new pattern. One that feels lighter, freer, more in flow. So the next time you feel yourself caught in an old emotional wave, pause. Don't fight it. Don't analyze it. Just watch it. Feel it fully, then let it pass. That moment of awareness is the spark of transformation, the exact point where the loop begins to collapse. You are no longer the unconscious participant. You are the conscious creator. The shift point isn't a destination. It's a continuous practice, a sacred act of remembering who you truly are. And once you reach this awareness, the old vibration no longer defines you. It becomes a story you've outgrown, a lesson learned. The loop fades, and what remains is spaciousness, a field of pure potential where your new frequency can finally begin to sing. Once you've reached the awareness that your vibration creates your experience, the next step is to consciously rewrite that frequency, to become the composer of your energetic song rather than the listener of an old melody. This is where transformation moves from awakening to embodiment. It's no longer just about seeing the loop. It's about tuning yourself into a new vibration so completely that the old reality no longer has a place to attach. Rewriting your frequency begins with how you feel, not what you think. Thought is surface level. Emotion is energetic. Every emotion emits a tone into the quantum field, a signal that communicates with everything around you. When your dominant tone shifts, life starts mirroring that change back to you in ways that seem almost miraculous. You might call them synchronicities, coincidences, or manifestations, but what's really happening is resonance. You are broadcasting a new signal, and the universe is responding in harmony. Think of it like tuning an old radio. For years you've been locked onto one station, one that plays stories of limitation, fear, and lack. The static between stations represents resistance, the discomfort that arises as you move from one vibration to another. But once you find the new frequency, the static fades and suddenly the music is clear. You haven't created a new reality from nothing. You've simply tuned into a different layer of what already exists. The signal was always there. You just had to match it. The most powerful way to begin rewriting your frequency is through conscious attention. Where you place your focus is where your energy flows, and where your energy flows is what becomes your reality. Every moment you spend focusing on fear, self-doubt, or frustration feeds the old vibration. Every moment you focus on gratitude, openness, and peace strengthens the new one. This doesn't mean denying your pain or pretending to be positive. It means learning to redirect your attention to the vibration you wish to live in. Gratitude is one of the simplest yet most transformative frequencies available. When you feel genuine appreciation, not forced but real, your energy expands. Gratitude opens the heart, and an open heart is the gateway to alignment. You start to perceive life through the lens of abundance rather than lack. Even small moments, like sunlight through a window or a kind word from a stranger, become symbols of resonance. The more you acknowledge them, the stronger the new frequency becomes. Another key to sustaining a higher vibration is emotional hygiene, the daily practice of cleansing and rebalancing your inner energy. Just as you shower to remove physical dirt, you must clear emotional residue to stay energetically fresh. This can be done through meditation, breathwork, journaling, or spending time in stillness. When you sit quietly and allow emotions to move through you without resistance, you release stagnant energy and make space for clarity. One powerful exercise is what some call energetic recoding. It begins by identifying a feeling or belief that belongs to your old vibration. For example, the feeling of unworthiness. Instead of trying to replace it with an affirmation, you bring awareness to it. You breathe into it. You feel it fully without judgment. Then, in that space of presence, you introduce a new vibration. A subtle intention like I am open to worthiness, I am open to peace, or simply I allow light. You're not forcing change, you're inviting it. Over time, these gentle shifts rewrite the energetic code of your being. Rewriting your frequency also means becoming intentional with your inner dialogue. The words you speak to yourself are spells that reinforce your vibration. When you catch yourself saying, I can't, I'm stuck, or, it's too late, pause. Those words carry frequencies of contraction. Replace them with softer, more open tones like, I'm learning, I'm evolving, or, I'm becoming. These phrases don't deny your current state, they lift it. They signal to the universe that you're tuning to a higher resonance. You'll notice that as you sustain this new vibration, old situations begin to feel foreign. Conversations that once consumed you no longer hold your attention. The emotional hooks that used to pull you back start to dissolve. This can feel disorienting at first, like you're shedding an old identity. And in a way you are. Every time you choose not to engage in the old frequency, a layer of your past self falls away. What remains is clearer, lighter, and closer to truth. It's also important to understand that the universe tests your new vibration, not to punish but to strengthen it. As you shift, life will present you with familiar scenarios that once triggered the old frequency. These moments aren't setbacks, they're opportunities to respond differently. When you meet them with neutrality or compassion instead of fear or frustration, you anchor the new energy deeper. The test becomes the initiation. Rewriting your frequency doesn't mean life becomes perfect or free from contrast. It means that your relationship with contrast changes. You stop seeing challenges as proof that you've failed and start seeing them as mirrors reflecting where alignment still needs attention. The emotional storms that once felt overwhelming become signals guiding you back to balance. You begin to trust that every experience, pleasant or painful, is part of your energetic evolution. To maintain this alignment, you must cultivate presence. Presence is the frequency of now, and now is the only place where energy truly shifts. The more you live in the present, the less power the old loops have. The past can't repeat if you're no longer vibrating in its memory. Presence collapses the timeline of repetition. It gathers your energy from the stories of yesterday and redirects it into the creative field of today. When you start living this way, the difference is unmistakable. You feel lighter, more at ease, more in flow. You stop chasing outcomes because you realize your vibration is the cause, not the effect. Life begins to meet you halfway. Opportunities arise effortlessly. People who match your frequency appear naturally. You no longer need to manifest through force. You attract through alignment. The beauty of rewriting your frequency is that it's not about pretending to be someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been when fear and conditioning are removed. It's the uncovering of your natural state. Peace, joy, expansion. When you stop broadcasting the vibration of struggle, the world stops echoing it back. What remains is harmony. You'll know your frequency has shifted not by external signs, but by how you feel when nothing is happening. The silence will feel different, lighter, calmer, more alive. You won't need constant validation because your inner state becomes its own reward. This is what alignment feels like: ease without apathy, clarity without control, love without attachment. As you continue to sustain this vibration, remember that energy moves in rhythms, not straight lines. Some days you'll feel elevated. Others you might dip into old patterns. That's normal. The key is not to judge the fluctuations but to stay aware. Energy is fluid. Every time you return to awareness, you realign with your chosen frequency. The journey isn't about perfection, it's about consistency of consciousness. Ultimately, rewriting your frequency is an act of devotion. Devotion to your peace, your growth, and your truth. It's the practice of aligning your inner world with the reality you wish to live in. And as you master this, you realize that freedom was never about controlling the external world, it was always about mastering the inner vibration that shapes it. The new frequency doesn't need to be forced. It unfolds naturally as you release resistance, nurture gratitude, and embody awareness. The loop dissolves not with effort, but with surrender, the gentle surrender into a higher vibration where alignment becomes your natural state of being. When the loop finally dissolves, it doesn't end with noise or chaos, it ends in silence. One morning, you simply realize that the heaviness you used to feel no longer belongs to you. The anxiety, the self-doubt, the constant overthinking. All of it feels distant, like a dream you've finally awakened from. That quiet freedom is the sign you've stepped beyond the loop. In this new space, you no longer fight reality, you flow with it. You respond with awareness instead of reaction. Life feels lighter, clearer, more fluid. Even challenges no longer feel like punishments. They become reflections, gentle reminders to realign. You begin to see that the loop wasn't your enemy, it was your teacher, guiding you to this deeper level of consciousness. You now understand that manifestation was never about controlling outcomes. It was about aligning your vibration with what's true for your soul. The quantum field doesn't respond to effort, it responds to coherence. And when your energy is coherent, when your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs move in harmony, life begins to meet you with the same ease you've cultivated within. Breaking the loop reveals something simple yet profound. You were never trapped. You were always free, you just needed to remember. Every repeated pattern, every emotional spiral was helping you find your center. The moment you stopped resisting, the loop lost its power. You didn't escape it by force, you outgrew it through awareness. And now, you move forward with calm certainty. You no longer chase, you allow. You no longer fear, you trust. You no longer try to become, you simply are. The vibration that once kept you stuck has transformed into the rhythm that now carries you forward. You have awakened beyond the loop, not as someone new, but as who you were always meant to be, free, aligned, and infinite.